Want to talk? So let's talk. Here. Talk. You want to talk? You gotta talk. You need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah, let's talk to Solomon. Talk to Solomon.
You gotta talk.
Welcome back for the final sector this day on Talk to Solomon. That's me, StanSolomon, my co-host,
Chief Steve.
Police Chief Steve Davis, and my other co-host is my friend Brent Johnson. Your website again, Brent, is?
Website is www.freedomradio.us. And by the way, my show, The Global Freedom Report, is coming back in a weekly 3-hour format starting June 2nd. You can find out all about it at the website. And our first show is going to feature the global elite insider, Pastor Lindsey Williams, and Dan Feitz, who's the investigative reporter who broke the story about police drugging Occupy Wall Street protesters in Minnesota, and Orly Tates, who is running for U.S. Senate in California and who has been a big-time exposer of Obama's ineligibility. It's going to be a phenomenal show, The Global Freedom Report, Saturday starting June 2nd. Check out the website, freedomradio.us.
Very good, and that plug was absolutely gratuitous and self-serving, but we love him. And of course, our friend Dr. Alan Keyes. Now, we are talking about a teacher, a woman who I'm sure has at least 2 degrees, Dumb and Dumber, and who made a complete fool of herself and a farce of our educational system, and has been suspended with full pay for, I'm sure, a week, after which time she'll be reinstated, having understood that she shouldn't do that anymore when someone has a recording device. Am I close here, Alan?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, now.
You sure she's not going to get an award? Right?
Yeah, she may get the suppository award for the month of May. All right, I want to just move to a different topic because
No, wait, Stan, I've got to comment. Stan, I've got to comment on this.
Go ahead.
I've got to comment on
Go
this.
ahead, go ahead.
All right, first off, for anybody who doesn't know, it is North Rowan High School in Spencer, North Carolina. The name of the principal is Daryl McDowell. The phone number is 704-636-4420. And I'll have that posted on my website also. I'm not as nice as you, Stan, or even as nice as Alan. I think that this teacher, and I use the word loosely, is frankly a Nazi fascist pig. What she did, she sat there and she threatened, for anybody who doesn't know the story, she threatened a student with arrest if the student said bad things about Obama. And by the way, I had not heard they suspended her. Have they really suspended her? They said they weren't taking any disciplinary action.
They suspended her with pay.
With pay. Oh, that's so she got a paid vacation as a reward for engaging in this kind of indoctrination. And anybody who wants to, that number I just gave you is Daryl McDowell's direct line. Good luck getting through to him, but I sure hope you'll try.
All right, Chief, you want to comment?
Just quickly, in Indiana, every school board in this state, since the beginning of school boards, has always raised the tax limit as high as they possibly could. And parents do not have any idea what's happening to their kids in school, in public school. They're being indoctrinated at your own expense. What I believe is happening is a violation of the First Amendment, because I believe that the state, with these public schools, is creating a state religion that is either their own agenda or an anti-Christian religion, which is a violation of the First Amendment.
Couldn't agree with you more. All right, I want to talk about the Trayvon Williams case. Alan Dershowitz, who I happen to know somewhat, who I have had the displeasure of having a conversation with after about 12 minutes, he hung up on me. I think he is as rude and as crude a human being as exists, and he got his place by stealing a client from F. Lee Bailey for whom he was clerking. That's just a little inside stuff. But Alan Dershowitz is a smart enough guy to say 1 and 1 is 2. And he has publicly said, and I'm sure won't get him invited to any baby killings or child molesting parties. But did I say that? Okay. At any rate, he has said that the charges against George Zimmerman, based on all the evidence that has been made public, and much, if not all of it, has been made public, that there is no credible possible charge of second-degree murder. Now, I'm not a lawyer, although I've played one, and my mother was one, and I know more than most of them. I can tell you that George Zimmerman was charged so that they wouldn't have riots. It had nothing to do with the facts of the case. Alan, I'd like you to comment.
Well, I think that's increasingly clear, Stan. And what has been especially disturbing throughout this process is that it all began in a spirit that was already biased, almost as if someone was calculating to use this episode in order to discredit the people who are like George Zimmerman, trying to take a positive and active role in the defense of their community from crime, but also in order to create a racially charged issue as we go into that portion of the presidential election cycle when they usually try, in order to stampede the black community, to create a racially charged atmosphere in America, so that somehow or another the fact of this or that about race will completely remove from the agenda all rational thoughts on the part of black Americans. I think it's a thoroughly demeaning political tactic, but it's been practiced and used throughout. And when you had people in the media who were purposefully falsifying the first reports in order to make Zimmerman appear to be something he was not, some kind of racist who was reacting simply to the race. When you portray the victim in this case, so that the first impression people got from the media was that you were dealing with a child who was being assaulted by this brute. And now it turns out, of course, that you were dealing with a rather burly adolescent who in fact was an habitué of club fighting and things like this that made him particularly, what's the word they used to use, pugnacious, prone to beat up on people. And so more and more of the evidence has lent credence and support to George Zimmerman's account of the whole affair. And all of this coming together not only points to that conclusion, however, but points to the fact that there was a calculated effort going on the part of this so-called free press of ours, which I think is just now a kind of more sophisticated version of the Pravda system, in which you're not getting anything at all that remotely resembles unbiased facts, and they're not even trying to pretend that that's their job anymore. It was just an effort to brainwash the public in a way that would create an environment of racial division, racial intimidation, racial shame and embarrassment on the part of some part of the electorate, all in the hopes that the shoddy record, that the destructive tenure of the individual in the White House would be in the midst of it all somehow ignored.
Go ahead, Chief.
Well, from the law and order perspective, first of all, you got our Attorney General Eric Holder making the statement that he would not prosecute black people for committing crimes on white people. That's the start of this whole process. But then Dr. Keyes already commented on the atrocities of the press to inaccurately describe the events that took place here. But also our own president, I believe, threw a lot of fuel on this fire. And I want to know if the roles were reversed, and if Trayvon Martin had been the killer in this case, or the person that pulled the trigger, would he then have said that Trayvon Martin deserved fair scrutiny by the press and a fair trial because he looked like his son?
Well, good comment. I'm going to hold mine. Brent.
Well, my first comment is I'm stunned that you had a 12-minute dialogue with Alan Dershowitz. I would have thought it was a monologue. Having said that, yeah, I agree on all these points. The media is racist. The government is racist. Far more, in my opinion, than the American people are racist. And by the way, I do think that our society has been promulgated and perpetuated as a racist society. But it is media and it is government that is doing that they are stoking the fires of racism here. This is, if you really strip it down and just look at the story, this is a man who is exerting his right to self-defense. That's it. Okay, it's not a big story. It's a good story. You know, someone stands up and he uses a firearm to defend his life, liberty, property. That's what our society is all about. So this is a good story. Nobody covers it that way. It has been turned into something ugly. It has been turned into something to foment riots. Like you said, Alan, that this whole thing has been done to prevent riots, not to pursue just whatever happened to liberty and justice for all. It's not there anymore. It's tyranny and injustice. And that's what the Zimmerman case is all about. I hope to God that he gets out of this without being shot. I really do.
I join you in that prayer. Now, let me make an observation. I believe, and you said it, Brent, that the media is much more racist than America. I believe the media is working hard to make black people look buffoonish. It's working hard to make black people look as though they cannot possibly accomplish anything worthwhile on their own. I think the media, and when I say media, I'm talking about the white liberal directed media. Instead of bringing an Alan Keyes, who is brilliant beyond description, they bring a buffoon like Charlie Rangel, or a moron like Al Sharpton, or a pimp like Jesse Rogers, and they do it on purpose. They want to make the public, black and white, and yellow and green and purple and polka dot, believe that all blacks are idiots. They may be talented idiots, but they're idiots. And you see them
It
take
sells advertising.
Well, they sensationalize themselves, but there are a lot of white idiots. I think there is a what is it that what is it? Sherlock Holmes, you say. There's a plot afoot. And to me, when you look at who do they put up to be spokespeople, it's like, couldn't you find someone sober? Couldn't you find someone articulate? Couldn't you find someone that doesn't just open their mouth to change feet? I mean, it's like,
those black people are destroyed by the media. Just look at Herman Cain.
Well, of course, good ones. Look at Alan Keyes. Look what they did to him. Anyway, Alan, you're here. Let me let you speak for yourself.
Well, Stan, I would have to say that in this case, you may be just a tad hard on the media.
Me? Oh.
Yeah. Why am I saying this? Because, far be it from me to try to act as if there's anything good that comes out of the propaganda media, and I wouldn't want to suggest that. But when you say that they are responsible for trying to make the black community appear like buffoons, do you know what crossed my mind? It's not really a change of subject because it addresses directly the point that I think is on the table. How can the media work harder to create the impression of something that is pathetic and buffoonish and utterly irrational than the leaders in the black community do themselves, like the recent move by the NAACP to declare that the issue of homosexual marriage is an issue of civil rights, and thereby to equate homosexual behavior with race for purposes of condemning it as any response to it as discrimination. So now we're going to say that all those years in which black Americans were being enslaved and subjected to all kinds of wrongdoing, we're to say that kind of oppression and really violent destruction of basic rights, violent depredation of nature, that all of that is the equivalent of people deciding to take their sexual pleasure in this way or that. And that therefore all the moral capital built up by the folks who suffered and literally died so that slavery could be ended, and so that the understanding of human moral equality could be vindicated. All of that is now equated with the idea that you must allow every kind of sexual license, and that was what was at stake in the civil rights movement. I'm sorry. I can't imagine anything as tragic, as pathetic, as deeply stupid and irrational as that. And that wasn't fabricated by the media. That was actually done by what they claim is the premier civil rights organization in America and all of this. And the sad truth is, Stan, that it reminds me of Catholic universities and other institutions that are now in the hands of people like the leaders of the present-day NAACP who just spit on everything that so many folks worked hard to articulate, worked hard to stand for, and then laid their lives on the line for over the course of the many decades and centuries in which the evils that black Americans were subject to were being fought against. And so it all now boils down to what these people do to maintain their own status and to keep making whatever money and goods they can bring in by playing this kind of sick game and exploiting the heritage of black Americans. They don't care how they degrade it. They don't care how they stand the rationale that was used to vindicate the rights of black Americans. You can take that, stand it on its head, equate it to any kind of thing you want. Bring it down to any level that you want. So long as they get attention and money out of it, they don't care. And I think that this prostitution of the heritage of black Americans, that isn't something that's invented by the media. That's something that's being perpetrated by a clique of leaders who now are way beyond the point where they have no shame, because like so many in the elite class now, the very idea of shame has been banished from the room. Because if there are no standards, and there is no God, and there is no nature, and there is no norm, and there is no rule by which we live, then there can be no standards. So why would we pay any attention to shame in the violation of those standards? And I think that's part of what's going on. So in that sense, Stan, I would want to mitigate your chastisement of the media, because sometimes they don't have to work too hard to make people look bad when they're working so hard at it themselves.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, but I also think they can choose to put the spotlight where it does the most harm and to keep the spotlight from where it could mitigate and balance, at least, when there are some of those actions. Brent, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you, Stan. I think, Alan, everything you say, I would not even presume to gainsay anything that you say. You are brilliant. However, I think it's a cooperative effort. I don't necessarily think it's a chicken and egg type situation. I do think, like NAACP, I don't like the idea of calling them the leaders of the black community, because it makes the black community, whatever that actually means, subjects. And I don't see people as subjects. I see each of them as children of God, and therefore as rulers unto themselves. It's probably fair to say the NAACP is one of those corporations that influences black people, and in cooperation with media foments and perpetuates the attitude that there is racism out there. And there is racism out there, but they make it worse. I think that the two of them, the media and organizations such as NAACP, work with each other and work off each other to promote that status quo. And I do think it's in the name of power and money that they do this.
Chief?
Well, you know, how can I top Dr. Keyes? He's so eloquent and so full of information. But again, I do agree with the comment made earlier that over and all, America is not a racist country. But racism is being promoted by our own government and by the media explicitly. And so there are people in this society that thrive on racism because they make money at it. They get information, they get notoriety, they get positions of power, like the NAACP. I'm sure that right now their positions are based more on their power rather than the accomplishments that they're going to make for the good of the black community. So I want to encourage everybody to speak your mind against racism and do the right thing, because America is still the best place on earth.
I want to just have one more topic because we only have a couple minutes left. So that means I have to let Alan go last. And that is the ultimate greed, the ultimate lack of values, the ultimate amorality in the world today is an organization called Facebook, and what they promote, what they allow, what they enable. And that was all put together to be the ultimate prize, where every insider, every politician, every whatever of the ruling elite, I'm going to get a piece of this, and I feel so good that they've all gotten an enema. And I jumped on the bag 3 times and felt good about it. I'll start with you, Chief.
Well, I want to tell you the funniest post I've seen in a long time I saw just this morning, and it said that Facebook went public because even they couldn't control their own security settings, which is probably true.
Brett.
I have a lot of trouble with the word ultimate because there's a lot of evil out there. There's a lot of darkness. But indeed, Facebook has got to be up there among the top 10 right now. And this whole thing with the public offering and you know, they deserve what they're getting right now in the financial sector.
Now, Alan, you can take it home.
Well, Stan, I too found myself kind of pleased that literally this IPO fell flat, right? And it looks like anybody who was speculating that it was going to do really well and they were going to make one of those special days when you could make hundreds of thousands of dollars off the rise of an IPO was nothing like it. And I pray and hope that it had something to do with the fact that there was information out there about how lax they are being in terms of the use of Facebook for preying upon children and things of this kind. But I also hope, Stan, that it's because folks will start to think, this is an organization was offering shares for sale to the public. Yeah, okay. Have you ever thought of what Facebook is? Facebook is like a theater that puts on all different kinds of shows. It invites people to come in and put on a show. And then those people have people coming in who are interested in their show, right? But usually when a theater puts on a show, they pay the performers, the producers of the show, and so forth and so on. They get something out of it. So if a lot of people come, or if in this case a lot of people are advertising, then the people who are putting on the shows will get something for their work and for their productions. What I've often wondered about is why it is that all the folks who are participating in Facebook, who essentially provide the shows that people come, it's created by the people who come there, right? And these guys who kind of invent it, it's all well and good, but all they do is offer the theater, just like a theater manager offers a facility. But in this particular case, the people who put on the shows don't get any share of the profit. Don't you think that's interesting? People talk about all these technological innovations. They like to pretend that they're so forward-thinking and that they want to do so much for society. It would really do something for society if the people who are making money hand over fist at Facebook would actually think through the truth, that they actually have one of the greatest opportunities for what would essentially be a proper joint ownership amongst all the people who are producing the show, so that the people who make their livelihood and riches possible would also get a share of the profits they make by exploiting them. Facebook is actually one of the greatest examples of human exploitation we've ever seen. And it's not just exploitation. You're inviting people in, putting on the show, making money from the advertisers, and not even bothering to offer 1 red cent in exchange for what they get. These people aren't forward-looking at all. It's just a new version of the same old sick exploitation. And they don't bother to try to think through a paradigm for a different kind of socio-economic relationship with the people who make their livelihood possible. They're just figuring out ways to increase their power by increasing their money some more. And yet these are the same people who will get on their high horse and start beating up on Americans who are out there working hard to put together enterprises where they actually pay the people who work with them. I don't know, Stan. I don't know why we put up with these people, their arrogance, their self-righteousness, when it turns out that at bottom, they are themselves the embodiment of all the things they criticize.
Well said, and with that, we will say goodnight to Dr. Alan Keyes, goodnight to my friend Brent Johnson, freedomradio.us, goodnight to the Chief, and good night to you, America, and thanks for watching.